Hello my loves, I'm Ellie Frost. Thank you so much for being on my channel where we are talking about the multidimensional approach to rapidly and radically healing and transforming during and after narcissistic abuse. And I want to make this video about to stop romanticizing narcissism and the narcissist, right? One of the biggest issues of the spell that they put you under, and it is a spell, they're working in the psychic realm. They love bomb you, sell you a lie that you energetically enmesh with, right? Not the person in front of you, the person that they've manipulated and energetically enmeshed you to believe they are. So people have questions around, can they change? That's what you hope for, because what happens in this cycle is you want that person back. The person you believed they were, the lie you were sold, you want that person back. They never existed. And then we romanticize. I think we've been taught this in our culture sometimes, that people can have this big turnaround and suddenly they realize that they were terrible and they wake up to the light and then they do everything they can to get you back. But the problem with this story is a fairy tale that we've romanticized in our culture that actually allows us to enable abusers back. When I talk about the spiritual awakening of the narcissist, I'm talking about in order for them to rehumanize, they'd have to attach to their soul, which would take a huge, huge spiritual awakening. It would take a dark night of the soul, if you understand that, if you know about like kind of the spiritual awakening process. A dark night of the soul is when people go through often a lot of karma, right? And some very deep, heavy emotions in life where it's like often they're facing a lot of their heavier, more traumatic stuff that they've been through or that they've done. Both, right? And so the narcissist would have to go through a very, very deep dark night of the soul where they'd face themselves, they'd take accountability, they'd feel again everything that they've put people through. It would be a very deep, heavy thing to go through that would take a while. It wouldn't be like, oh, here's my next supply, I've now had an awakening and I'm a better person. No, with every new supply, there'll be everything that they weren't to you, that you wanted them to be. They may not have this awakening in this lifetime. So waiting for it is a massive problem because it's keeping you attached to a fantasy, an illusion, and it's not your fault. It's so not your fault. There's nothing wrong with you at all. This is so compelling. In our heart of hearts, we want that person to transform. In our heart of hearts, we want to connect to them. There's someone that we've invested in. Again, what happens psychologically, the more we invest in something, even if it's not working, we're also wired to try and make the thing work, even if it's not working. So we've put our heart and soul into these relationships. We've put our energy and time. Not just that, we've pinned our hopes and dreams on them. So what you go through makes sense, but we have to stop romanticizing it. I understand that there are people now that are saying that they're awakened narcissists. They may be, but the ones I've seen are very, very firm. The ones I've seen are the ones saying, don't get near these creatures. This is what they are. This is how corrupt they are. This is how distorted they are. You can't believe a word they say. They will literally destroy your life. I don't know how many, I don't do a ton of research on that, but like the ones I've seen are telling the truth about how mean, vindictive, cruel, and ungenuine they are. Some of them will tell you the tricks they used and that they had no limits and boundaries. I don't know if there are other ones not saying that, but if they're not, I don't know. Like, we've got to deal with what we're dealing with, not the potential of what we could be dealing with. This happens in all relationships, right? When you're in a romantic relationship, you've got to say, can I love this person exactly as they are, where they are? Most people do have a lot of potential. Narcissists don't. There's no growth with a narcissist. They are a distortion, a spiritual distortion, a spiritual sickness. There is no growth to be had. Growth would require truth. A narcissist, this is like truth to a narcissist is everything they avoid and manipulate and twist and distort. They cannot be with the truth. It won't matter. They'll call you everything they are. They're not interested in the truth. They often do know, but they don't care about it. And it's a game to them. It's a cat and mouse game to distort it. And it's not something that they care about. But we've romanticized this, like, this thing about people treating you bad and suddenly waking up and being the person you always wanted them to be. Please throw this in the trash, this idea. Romanticize the person that comes into your life, takes it at your own pace, and you get to really be treated well by. Romanticize the person who does what they say they'll do. Romanticize the person that's brave enough to be honest. Telling the truth is often a hard thing to do, right? It's not, the truth is something that sometimes can take a lot of courage to be really honest with someone. Romanticize what's real, not a fantasy, because this is the issue, right? I want, people are talking about them like they're fluffy pets. My narc. I'm in a narc club. I'm talking about my narc. As if it's a fluffy pet. It's as much as a fluffy pet as if you've ever seen Gremlins when the gizmo is a fluffy pet and then they pour water on it and it turns into a little demon. Yeah? And will rip your throat out. That's exactly what a narcissist is. It's a poisonous snake. If you prod a poisonous snake, you want to go back to it. You want to retext it. You want to play with it. Oh, it's going to bite you. It's going to bite you harder this time. Every time they come back, the cycle gets worse. I've seen these awakened narcissists say that. It gets worse. It gets worse. Yes, it's cognitive dissonance. It's hard for us to hold two opposing ideas. Cognitive dissonance, by the way, is just the fact in psychology that your brain cannot hold on to two opposing ideas. So I talked about my childhood and how I had to deny what my parents were doing and how they treated me, because as a kid I wouldn't have survived the truth. I couldn't have survived. I had to pretend that they were great parents. I had to keep holding on to that idea because my body couldn't handle it. I wasn't ready to process that trauma then. So sometimes it's survival. I was trapped. I was an absolute prisoner with my ex at one point. I had to be whatever he needed me to be, literally. I felt like so dehumanized. It didn't matter what I cared about, didn't matter what my values were. I was his thing to use for whatever he wanted. It was awful. Absolutely awful. They have no bounds to what they'll do to you. None. You are not human. They're dehumanized and they dehumanize you. You make no mistakes. Factually, because some of us have been through some terrible ordeals with them, why would you give that person a second chance? Because they're putting you under a psychic bond, right? If you can join Sovereign, do. You must cut the psychic ties. This fantasy is part of the programming they're putting in the psychic realm in your brain. It's part of the spell. That suddenly this person has gone off and had an awakening and that they've come back and now they're ready to be everything of your dreams. Oh, they'll show you everything of your dreams in the next love bombing stage. And depending on the narcissist, my ex was a covert malignant, like one of the most spiteful creatures on the planet. They'll play a long game. They'll play a long game because the longer they can play the game, the harder it is when they shatter you down and completely devastate your life. You're dealing with such dangerous predators. And like I say, they don't just target people on empathy. They're not after empathy. Empathy is a gateway to exploit you for what they actually want. And they certainly don't target people who haven't got a lot to offer. They're users, they're takers of everything. Could be as I say, what you can offer them in terms of unique gifts, support, the love you give, the way your energy is, could be resources. They want what they want from you, right? Could be your body, could be many things. But they're after what they're after, your empathy, your wounds, they're gateways in. They're things to exploit, as are hooks, like jobs, like anything you could want in life. They know what your cherry on top is in terms of what would be the icing on the cake that they can present, that they can give you that no one else can, or no one else can in the way that they do it. What you'll never understand is you're dealing with a creature. If you think about a reptile, like a snake, it's just instinctive. It has no emotional capacity. These are soul-detached entities. Narcissism, they have soul-detached, which means that the reason you're not a fool, There's nothing wrong with you, and that people don't understand the level of emotional manipulation and abuse is because it is impossible for a human being to understand how you can be so emotionally devoid and calculating and cruel and strategic with a person that you can see you're hurting, with a person that's sharing their heart, with a person that's got an emotional response. They're empty, they're void, they are not living in hell. I wish people would stop teaching how terrible life is for the narcissist. It's not. It's void, right? So a lot of them will fill it with sex, or fill it with substances, or fill it with lots and lots of people, fill it with schemes and plans, because it's very void, it's very empty, it's not a connected life. But they're not living in a torturous hell because they're soul detached and they're working for an entity of consciousness right now. And until we stop being the power supply to it, it carries on. When we detach our energy, it has to face they face their karma. Then the divine, spiritually, can actually kick in and start putting the balance in. There's nothing romantic about someone who's abused you, someone who's exploited you, someone who's manipulated you, someone who has pushed you to the depths of hell, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially, sexually, in any way. Don't wait till it gets that bad. You know how you feel. As soon as you start questioning yourself in a relationship and you start getting doubting yourself so much, you're under abuse. We're not taught what this is, right? The first response often of being in an abusive situation is that you will start doubting yourself, probably trying harder, probably trying to be more what that person wants. That's how you know something's off. When you're in a healthy relationship, you should feel actually loved. Right? More supported, more celebrated, more honoured, more connected to. Not that you're doing something wrong and you've got to improve the whole time. This is when someone's starting to tear you down, break you down, right? There's nothing they've done to you that you can't recover from. I don't believe anyway. I mean, yes, if you're disabled, certain people have been infected with diseases by them. There are no limits to what they will do, but you can get healthy again is what I mean. You can restore your life. You can restore your heart, you can restore your belief in people, you can restore your connection on the planet, but you cannot do it when you are plugged into them. Yeah? If you're looking for an awakened one, it's an unhealthy thing that's happening, right? It's not your fault. You can't help it sometimes, but you've got to understand what this is. You've got to understand that this is a response to an abusive, toxic situation, and actually I've got some work to do, right, to bring myself back, to bring myself home, out of this fantasy, out of this lie. It's part of it. It's part of it. You can't be in this toxicity without getting ill. You can't even survive often without abandoning yourself, right? Sovereign is opening tomorrow for the warm-up. If you want to join that, do get in. Please listen to what I'm saying. Yeah? There's nothing romantic about being abused. There's nothing romantic about being devalued. There's nothing romantic about a person who will throw you away like a piece of trash, no matter how much of your life you've given. Some of you would have given years in marriage, children, love, support, kindness, all the best things about you, which I really don't want us to shut down on, because those qualities with the right people on this planet is going to change the world. I really don't. That's why I love my program Sovereign, because with the right boundaries and understanding of energetic strength and what things are, those qualities will be the ones that will light up the world, right? We're not meant to just shut down and isolate and protect ourselves. We're meant to become sovereign so that we don't get abused, but we can actually use those qualities to create connection, to create great lives for ourselves, to be willing to receive more from life again, which is very scary. Even I work through that now, trusting life again after what I've been through. I don't forget it, you know. Can I really trust it? Can I really trust it? Yes, I can. Because I'm coming from awareness, I'm coming from sovereignty, I'm coming from manifestation, and I'm not coming from trauma anymore. But like, when you've seen the worst of things and the worst of people, I don't believe anyone here could become that. I think it's impossible for us. I don't think we've got to worry about that. I don't think you've got to worry about your narcissism. Have you got some toxic traits to work on? Probably, yeah. Watch what I share with you. But trust in life. Being willing to receive what we actually want again. Being even willing to go there and connect to what we could want if we would let ourselves believe it was possible for us to have a good quality of life. It's not, most people aren't asking for too much in their life, right? We want to just be happy and enjoy in our life. be self-expressed, be valued, be enjoying people. Not with people who are going to tear us apart, literally disarm you, suck the life out of you. Yeah? And the only way you're going to exist there is to detach from yourself, detach from your soul, and not actually fulfill your purpose on the planet. We do not need narcissism. It's a distortion. It's got way out of balance, right? And we get to put that balance back in. It's not being dealt with properly at all. It's not being dealt with fairly in courts. It's not being dealt with fairly in the legal system, because the emotional abuse and the PTSD is not being understood, or, I don't think, compensated properly for. Either way, we only get to change the world by one step at a time, which means that, first of all, awareness, first of all, zero tolerance in our own life to it, you know, and then insistence on being recognised. Half of the problem is when you've been very traumatised, you haven't got words to explain what has happened to you. You're very confused often. You think it's your fault. I've talked about that many times on the channel. You think it's your fault. You're very confused. We're still idolising the abuser. So there's lots of layers to this, but it doesn't have, you know, but I try and make it as simple as I can, right? One step at a time, you take yourself back. You do not romanticize something that is so unromantic. They're not a cute, fluffy pet. They're not the lie they sold you. They're not the person you think you are. Most narcissists I know from my ex, you know, will project a very different persona to whoever they're with. They're what someone needs them to be so that they can extract everything from them. It is extremely demonic. Yeah, and it's extremely unsafe. And they are walking around in our vicinity without us really being taught what to look for in this. Okay, my loves. Any questions, let me know. Lots of love. I'll speak to you soon.